This is Star Trek Wars. Lower your expectations and prepare to be entertained. Resistance is futile.
One thing is certain, we're losing the peace, which means a war could be our only hope.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jeremy, and welcome to the 10th anniversary of Star Trek Wars, your official Star Trek bootleg podcast. I forgot how great these sound effects were. It's pretty realistic. And once again joining us, again back in Star Trek Wars studio, and the only other person sitting with me 10 years ago when we started, it's my son, Connor. Hello, Connor.
Hello, everybody. Much like a bad cold or a rash on your back, I've returned, and for good this time. There's no getting rid of me.
Ooh, that's exciting.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, that sounded sarcastic. Yeah, great. Let the good times roll. It's good to be back, gang.
It's good to have you, Connor. Now, Connor, it says here in my notes, you were 11 when we started, and that you're 21 now. Is that correct?
Yes, that is technically true, unless you're listening to this in the future, in which case I am 50, and I've gone missing in the Bahamas. I own 3 car resorts, and I love listening to the soulful stylings of the Beach Boys.
Oh, that's the life. You lived a good life.
I did. I may have been taken out by the Russian mob because I owed them over $300,000, but damn that I live good.
11 years old when we started. And may I just say, you haven't aged a day.
Thank you. My feet can't reach the floor.
Remarkable.
You haven't aged a day.
Happy New Year's, Connor. Oh, did that offend you? You can't say anything these days.
Wait a minute. What is? Are you Seinfeld? What is happening? He's like, you can't say Happy New Year's on the college campus. They're all hippies.
That's council culture for you. Star Trek council culture for you.
Yeah, we became Scientologists, folks, if you didn't know, so we're against psychiatry now.
Shout out to the Star Trek Wars council culture. We love you guys.
Yes.
Connor, people often ask me, between autographs, how do I keep this great energy going after podcasting for 10 years?
It's a good question.
I'll let you all in on a little secret. After we record and release an episode, I wait. Days, weeks, months go by. And the moment I realize it's been so long that I no longer had to do any of this, I give you a call. So apologies in advance to everybody for listening to this. It's been a while. Welcome to part 1 of 2 specials coming out this weekend. Connor and I will be your hosts for this special that we're calling Getting From There to Here, where we'll take a look back at our initial podcast run and look ahead to what we're doing this year. Our second special this weekend will have Jordan with Joselyn as she finally watches the Enterprise series premiere, Broken Bow. Excited to hear how that goes. Now, Connor, we do have some exciting stuff to announce, and we'll get into the details of that later. But suffice it to say, we are back doing new episodes in 2024, and not just covering the modern Trek episodes, but talking all Trek, classic, and current. And as always, we want you guys at home to be part of that. So join our council culture over on Star Trek Wars, our Facebook group. The Star Trek Wars Council is the group you go to that allows you to vote on episodes and get your opinions read on air. So tonight, on our 10th anniversary, we're going to reflect on the road we took, getting from there to here. So we might as well start with From There.
Flawless.
Now, since I stopped doing podcasts regularly, I decided to research how they're actually done successfully. And it turns out that when someone clicks on a podcast about Star Trek, they actually want to hear about Star Trek and not the dumb hosts who desperately want to make the show about them and fool themselves into thinking they're the main reason people are listening.
What a novel concept.
That being said, Connor, tell me about your early days on Star Trek Wars.
Well, it all started. My father press ganged me like a maroon sailor found on an island. Here's what happened, folks. One day, well, there's a different podcast that we used to do.
That's right. This is not the Star Trek Wars got started on a earlier podcast as a segment on it.
Yes. Can I name that podcast? Or
You sure can. It no longer exists. No one can find any of it.
Oh, that's fantastic. Gone Nerdin', ladies, gentlemen, and non-binary pals. The Gone Nerdin' was certainly a podcast, and it walked. So Star Trek Wars and other podcasts, just as a medium, frankly, could run. And some say that that's bold, inaccurate, self-aggrandizing.
Well, that was like 11 years ago, Connor. So we were probably, I don't know, maybe the 5th or 6th podcast to exist.
That's
Nerdin',
true.
So.
We walked so Joe Rogan could run.
Yes.
He even talked about it publicly on his podcast. Look it up.
Yeah, Jamie, look it up.
He said, Jamie, I know we're watching chimpanzees beat a woman's head in with a rock at a zoo, but let's just give it up for Star Trek Wars, everybody.
And funny enough, when you Google the chimpanzees beating people to death, Gone Nerdin's like the second thing that pops up.
Oh, it was our 3rd episode. It's just an hour and 15 minutes of chimps fighting each other.
Horrific chimp noises.
Ripping each other's genitals off and pulling each other's eyes out. God's noble creatures they are. But in all seriousness, though, you're right. So it started out as a segment on Gone Nerdin', where Deep Space Nine got a 10 every episode, and everything else got a 1. And then it branched out. You know, it's kind of like how Frasier, in my opinion, eclipses Cheers. Sure,
Yes.
Gone Nerdin' is a show where nobody knows the names of the hosts. But Frasier is really smart.
And now, whatever we're doing right now
Yeah.
is the Frasier reboot on Paramount Plus.
It's like the Night Court reboot. It's so funny, and you should watch it live. But it started. But Star Trek Wars became its own thing. It was I think it's not even a spin-off. It's the main vessel, essentially. And Gone Nerdin' was a thing that existed, and it was up for a while, kind of abandoned. And now it's been shot in the head, and you will never find it.
I did a great job erasing it from history, but I think we did like 55 episodes or so of it.
Oh, yeah. Oh my God, that was so long ago. And I was infrequently on it from time to time, and I'm sure that is all aged fantastically. But anyway, so I'm 11, and I remember, I think the first time I ever watched like actual like Star Trek, the first episode I ever watched was Rocks and Shoals.
Oh, is that right?
You had a black and white VHS tape of Rocks and Shoals from the 90s. And you were like, hey, hey kid, hey, watch this, you'll like it.
That's the first time you met me.
Yes, in an alleyway outside of Sears. But I did like Rocks and Shoals because I was like, oh, I like the laser fights. And that I was like probably like 9, 10, I think.
What better thing to introduce you with than the second episode of like a 8-part series?
You got me hooked.
That's a great episode.
And then I watched some Star Trek with you for I almost said Bond Nerd Bond Nerdin' together. A father and coworker and sometimes son's podcast. And from there I was like, you know what? I like this Star Trek stuff, and now it's subsumed my life. So I hope you're happy. I pointed out to my coworkers, I got a Star Trek magazine from my work, and it's not good. This is a segue.
And this is recently?
Yes. And we'll still talk about the early days of the podcast. I promise. We're getting there when we get there, folks. It's a long it's a bit of a story. So sit down, get some popcorn, and put your listening ears on.
It's my favorite kind of ears.
But it's a Time magazine about Star Trek. And it's not necessarily for super geeks such as ourselves, who like I was pointing out to my coworkers, like, oh, it's a scene from Errand of Mercy, the 26th episode of Star Trek, the original series, by the by. And I just want to point out that I made an awful, egregious mistake. When I was talking about it with my coworkers, I said that it was the 23rd episode of TOS. The 23rd episode of TOS is a taste of Armageddon, folks.
They didn't make fun of you, did they?
No, they shoved me in lockers. They tarred and feathered me.
I'm surprised
drawn and quartered me.
That in 2024 there's a Star Trek magazine on a shelf. That's really cool.
It was, and surprisingly enough, it wasn't just TOS and Next Gen.
Wow.
Yeah, that's what surprised me the most. Enterprise definitely gets the least mention. Like even the newer shows like Strange New Worlds, Discovery, and Picard, which is fair. Those are fairly successful, I suppose,
and recent.
Yeah. They get way more attention than Enterprise. I was expecting DS9 to be lift down a lot, and it certainly doesn't have as much screen time as TOS or Next Gen. Like they don't really go into the filming process with that and how the show like changed over time. Even though I'd say DS9 changes the status quo way more than any other Star Trek show before or since. But they discuss Voyager a decent amount. But whenever they do, they just like, and Janeway was the first female captain, which is not like, I'm not pointing that out like, oh, they had to point out she's a woman. That's not my problem with it. It's more so that they don't talk about Voyager like anything else at Voyager.
That's all they see it as.
Yeah. Which kind of misses the point.
Yeah.
Of Star Trek, I think. Like pointing out that like, oh yeah, Avery Brooks is the first, like he's a black lead character.
That's all DS9 was. Voyager was first female captain lead.
Yeah. And like they talk about like some of the they don't, when they talk about like the politics of Star Trek, they tend to avoid specifics, which kind of, I know, I'm sorry, this has turned into a magazine review, but I promise I'll be brief.
And there wasn't a lot of politics in classic Trek, so I don't even know what they did.
I remember watching Let This Be Your Last Battlefield, and I remember it's about color theory. Like that's something that got me is like they just point out like it's not for super geeks like us or like just big Trek fans. It's more so for like your mom and pop who loved to catch reruns on it in the 70s.
Just Cliff Notes stuff.
Yeah, like
do you know Martin Luther King Jr. asked Nichelle Nichols to stay on Star Trek?
I didn't until this magazine told me.
Yeah, of course.
So that like just the most like obvious stuff, like William Shatner is an awful egotist who got mad that Leonard Nimoy got lines, or that people got to do things who weren't him.
Viggo Mortensen broke his toe on set of Two Towers.
There weren't any ghosts at the Battle of Pelennor Fields. They fought at the Battle of Pelagir, which everybody knows, of course.
Yeah.
It's just that kind of stuff. But it was an okay read. Your parents might like it if they caught Star Trek reruns in the 70s between watching like Happy Days and what do kids watch? Third Rock from the Sun. I don't know.
That's a great show.
I do like Third Rock from the Sun. I'm sorry, not to put down its good name.
Sure.
But anyway, Star Trek Wars. Yes. So we started. We were scrappy. We were anti-establishment. I want to say, and we were bold.
We had deeply rooted biases on what shows we wanted to succeed.
Yes, because we just wanted it to be the DS9 hour, and everything else was trash. And we've pointed this out, and even in the later years of Star Trek Wars, which the Apology Tour era. But even then, like my opinions on Trek are quite different, and I feel like not to be too like self-critical. And it wasn't even for this, like, in the sense that it was, we were, like, clickbait, shocking YouTubers who were like, did you know that Star Trek Voyager is the worst show ever made? for like clicks. I think it was just more so like it's and like in a sense it was fun to just like, oh, this is like the worst thing ever, this is dumb, but it's also not like on repeat. I feel like we were really nasty to a lot of these shows and deeply unfair. Even in some of like the later years, like I think Endgame, I don't remember what I gave it, but I think that's the last episode of Voyager. I don't care for it very much, to be frank. Like to this day, I don't care for it. But the only like last episode of a Star Trek show that I don't like is Turnabout Intruder for TOS, because that's unbearable, unwatchable, sexist, awful crap. And then the last episode of Enterprise is a dismal failure. I hate those. Endgame, I don't hate. I just don't think it's very good. And that's like I think we've just mellowed out a lot as well. Like I had oh god, if the awful event happens where one of us becomes famous for some reason, you'll probably see it on the news. But if that did happen, like you could just comb over the archive of all the insane things we said.
Connor, what do you think you gave Endgame?
Endgame, I gave it a 4.
You gave it a 5.
I gave it a 5. That's what I'd give it now. So good job, Connor. That's exactly what I'd give it.
Because what would season 1 Connor have given Endgame?
Oh, a 1.
Yeah.
It's the worst thing ever, and it's stupid, and everyone involved was stupid, and I hate them. There's a phenomenon back in the day where sometimes I would not like watch an episode. It wasn't like every episode. It'd probably happen 1 in 15 times where I just forgot to, and they'd be like, what happened in this episode? I'm like, a lot. It was all stupid.
Yeah.
Here's a cartoon from the 70s I watched.
I had no idea about any of this till after. I would not have condoned that.
Well,
but there were times when we would watch all the episodes together, and then times where scheduling conflicted, because when we set out to do Star Trek Wars, I want to do something that has never been done in any Star Trek podcast before, and that's watch an episode from all 5 Treks at the time for one podcast
Could
episode.
you imagine doing that again?
No, now I realize why we were the only one to ever do that. Watching 5 episodes for one podcast is brutal.
Because and that was a thing about it too, was the we had a crazy schedule for it. Like we'd watch like 5 back to back, do like 20-30 minutes of prep work for the podcast, and then we do at the least an hour and 30, hour 15 Star Trek podcast. Typically at like sometimes up to like 11 in the night is when we'd start.
Well, yeah, because we would try to do like a half hour or so for each show, but with 5 of them, we were hitting like the 2.5, 3 hour mark.
And I think that Voyager and Enterprise definitely suffered from that fatigue.
In the last 2.
Just like we need to like get through this. And I definitely want to do like revisit those sometime, just to like I remember like there's a lot of specific episodes that I really want to like touch on again because my opinions have changed.
Well, that could be something we look into doing in the future, Connor.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll give you a sneak peek of the first one I want to touch on. And I apologize for forgetting the name of the episode.
That's what I'm here for. I have a Star Trek encyclopedia. I never forget.
The first episode with the Trill in TNG.
The host.
Oh my God. Thank you. I hate this episode, and it's something I really want to talk about because fun apology tour. When I was like a child, I was like a weird internet reactionary because of YouTube.
I thought you were going to say because of you, Dad.
Because of you, Dad. You made me racist. That's the title, the clickbait. My dad made me racist. And I'm doing the Kevin McAllister holding my face, and there's a red circle around my face.
My eyes are big and crossed.
And you're making it just making a stupid face in the corner, spinning your dip cup.
Spin your dip cup.
As you always have the Star Trek Wars dip cup. Buy now at redbubble.com, folks. But yeah, I had wildly awful opinions. So if you listen back to an episode of the podcast and I said something insane, I am sorry, and I am not who I am when I was 14. But I had like a wildly transphobic take in this episode, and I do apologize for that. I also made transphobic jokes all the time, and I apologize for that.
Like, Connor, if you're not growing as a human being, you're shrinking. That's a quote from me.
Do you have a pocketbook that you just read that from?
Just put that back down.
It's called Aphorisms with Jeremy Reed. Is that your memoir?
Well, I mean, you were 11. We started it. I'm not saying I got you to watch Star Trek as an intervention because I saw the way you were going as a youth. But I think we've all changed and grown, hopefully in a positive way, in a decade.
Yes, and I would definitely say so. I just want to touch on that episode real quick. I think it's cowardly. I think it's a terrible episode. Like if you don't know, there's a love interest of the week. It's a love interest of the week episode, which is not a format I generally like in Star Trek. I think it's not super interesting because why should you care most of the time? Because these characters are never going to be brought up again for any reason. But anyway, Beverly Crusher falls in love with the Trill, and you're like, oh, the Trill, they have the dotted like spots on them. No.
Are these the ones with the McDonald's arch foreheads?
Yep.
Ah, yes.
They have the wrinkly foreheads, and they still have like the host in them, the symbiote. But most of that's like kind of iterated on in DS9. But Dr. Beverly Crusher falls in love with this guy. I'm forgetting what
Odan.
Odan. You got it right. That's right on the money. She falls in love with this guy named Odan, who's a Trill. He dies in an accident. I'm forgetting what. And his symbiote is put into the body of a woman who shares. She has feelings for Beverly Crusher. So you can kind of see that as like
it goes to Riker first, right?
Oh yes,
and then while they're waiting to find a replacement Trill,
yes,
and then ends up in a woman,
right. And then that woman has those same feelings for Beverly Crusher. Even though don't they? And it's established in DS9 that that's kind of a taboo thing to do in Trill society. But that's not like that's.
Yeah, we're not there yet.
How dare you not predict the future of Star Trek canon? Accurately, which is like not an actual critique, but then Beverly Crusher just is like, oh, maybe in the future humans will understand this gender thing, and that's like the most cowardly shit in any Star Trek show. Like that's like if I don't know, and in DS9 you have Jadzia kisses. It's another Trill, long lost lover Trill episode, but it's fantastic. It's one of my favorites. I'm forgetting the name, but it does have a same gender kiss in it, which rattled a lot of people's jimmies back in the day, as Star Trek is prone to do when it's doing its job.
Rejoined.
That sounds familiar.
Yeah.
But anyway, also, sorry. Going back to that magazine, they mentioned that there's only LGBTQ stuff in Star Trek now, which is not. It is not true. There's the oh god. See, you're the Star Trek encyclopedia.
Yeah, there's literally a character named Q.
There's that episode with it's like the non-binary society and the she's like I identify as a woman.
The outcast.
Thank you. Which I know, like saying that now doesn't seem like like that seems like it could be taken as like a regressive thing, but it's. For the 90s, they had to do that for like the allegory, and I still think it's pretty awesome, even if the producers in the studio were cowards and wouldn't let an AMAB actor be casted like Jonathan Frakes wanted. But it's still a really good episode, still good commentary. But anyway, so there's a lot of episodes we want to revisit. We had a scrappy setup way back when. We didn't have these sophisticated, and by sophisticated I mean really like simple, sleek things that we have now. We have these nice mics. We got some good sound setup. No. When we started back in the day, I believe you used GarageBand.
Yeah, GarageBand mics, because that's all we had.
And like that was like the software, and we had Rock Band mics, didn't we? Or did we? Yeah.
Oh, that's right, Rock Band mics. That's what I meant.
Yeah, you had...
The only mics we had were the ones we had from playing Rock Band, the video game.
And they were the highest of quality.
I tried talking on one of the Guitar Hero guitars, but that was even worse quality.
Did you really?
No, I don't think that's the thing.
Oh my God. It's so interesting that whole genre of games is extinct now. I think that's fascinating. But check out our Star Trek games channel.
Yeah, we didn't really have a lot thought out in the first season. We didn't have pros and cons.
We just talked.
We didn't do an average score, I don't think, because there's only two of us. So I think we actually, in the early days, would just add up the points, like 18 points.
Yeah. So you can imagine which one won, essentially, like 9 times out of 10. It was DS9, if you're not picking up on the heavy bias. And Jordan joined us in season 2.
Yes, season 2 is huge because that's also when the Star Trek Wars Council joined us.
Yes.
Mid-season 2, and then Jordan also, and I think that was the two biggest things for the podcast.
Yeah, and that was absolutely huge. We started getting the fun fact segment from him. We started getting real feedback from the fans, and I also feel like they kept us in check as much as they could. So I appreciate the fans.
You know why we went to the format of pros and cons?
Not off the top of my head.
Because of Voyager. Because first season,
God.
We were so rough on Voyager that eventually I had to be like, Connor, think of one positive thing to say.
Oh, God.
So we forced a pros and cons, so we would have to think of pros for all the shows, including Voyager. It was that bad. But that's why we came up with a pros and cons segment, was just because even me, who disliked Voyager more than I should have, realized no one wants to hear a Star Trek show where they're just bashing.
They're just dismissing it.
Every series is someone's favorite, and Voyager is a legitimately good Star Trek show.
It is,
and it was treated unfairly.
Like some of my favorite episodes are Voyager episodes, and like I could say, well, some of my least favorite are Voyager episodes, and I think Voyager does have a lot of like wasted potential, but so does every single Star Trek show. Voyager has like the fight, which is the best episode of Star Trek. Fun fact about Star Trek Voyager with Chakotay's character, played by the wonderful, lovely, bubbly Robert Beltran.
Let me back in the ring!
Star Trek Voyager had a quote, like Native American, like spiritual advisor to make sure that the portrayal of Native Americans in space was not offensive. And the guy just made shit up. He was a hack. He just lied. And that's a fun thing about how Star Trek Voyager handles Native Americans in the most stereotypical and embarrassing way possible.
But now, Connor, we're all about the positive vibes
right.
now, so please don't mention Robert Beltran again.
I shan't until it becomes absolutely necessary to do
fair enough.
so.
Just give me a warning.
But I don't know. I have a lot of nostalgia for those days. I also just can't bear to listen to them.
Yeah, fair.
And that's partially because I can't listen to myself when I was a child, and that's mainly because I was obnoxious and very crude, if you will, because I was a child.
I feel like Star Trek Wars did exactly what all the good Star Trek series did, and that's not get good till season 3. We're just following in our heroes' footsteps, brother.
Absolutely. I think season 4 really is like when I'm like, okay, I can listen to this. If you must, I'd say 5, 6, and 7.
Well, that's when Lita joins us in season 5.
Yes. And I feel like the show really came into it, like, not to be patting ourselves on the back here, but I feel like it really came into its own when we got Jordan, when we got Lita, we got Joselyn. Like, I feel like this is these really important moments for the show. And I think just getting different perspectives in general from all the people who've contributed to the podcast over the years, and from we've done podcasts with some of our fans. Yeah. Like the Grim Schnabler. Hope you're doing good, man.
He may have been one of, if not the first guest we had on Star Trek Wars.
And yeah, like they everything that they contributed has been huge to the podcast, and their perspectives have been, in my opinion, in my humble intellectual opinion, invaluable.
In fact, that's how Jordan joined the podcast. He did the same thing that Gribschnabler did. He was a fan of the show and asked if he could be on, and we brought him on, and we never let him leave.
He's chained in our basement. We captured him. He's ours. But yeah, and I think the show definitely got better as it went along. But there's definitely a lot of room for reinterpretation, I think, for a lot of the episodes that we covered.
Absolutely.
And there's a lot of episodes I just want to talk about again. Especially for like TOS, which I love. So fun fact about me, I don't watch a lot of people are like, oh, dude, what TV are you watching? I'm like, okay, what am I watching that's not Star Trek episodes I've already seen a million times? And the answer to that is I'm either watching like huge shows like The Sopranos or Breaking Bad, or I'm watching the Beverly Hills Hillbillies, which are equally important, groundbreaking shows. The golden age of television was started by the Beverly Hills Hillbillies.
How, is it Beverly Hills Hillbillies or is it Beverly Hillbillies?
It's Beverly Hills Hillbillies.
Are you sure?
I'm so positive. I'm going to Google it right now. And we're going to leave all this in.
I'll just play some music while you're...
Okay. Whoa, you're right. Dang it. They're the Beverly Hillbillies. Why did I call them that? I thought they were the Beverly Hills Hillbillies.
That makes sense now, because I remember you mentioning that show when you were with your Janeway character. Because you said the Beverly Hills Hillbillies. I just thought it's that Janeway stutter that you had for the character, but
yeah.
That makes a lot of sense.
When did that start? Said season early on.
Early, yeah.
But I used to sound like this.
Is that Watto?
Your Jedi mind tricks won't work on me. How have you, Star Trek Ward? We're cutting that out. Segue.
Since we did the initial run of 7 years, watching every episode from the modern or classic Trek, and then we jumped into the movies for a year.
Yes,
which was a lot of fun. And then new Trek came out, which I enjoy most of them quite a bit, and don't dislike any of them.
Yeah, I suppose we should segue to new Trek then, if you're so inclined.
Yeah, because in terms of like classic Trek, I haven't been watching a lot lately. Which
interesting. Because for me, it's the opposite. So season 3 of Picard.
Yes.
The only season of Picard.
Okay,
for me.
You have not seen a lot of the modern Treks. Like you're a couple seasons behind on Discovery.
Yeah, I think I'm 3 behind at this point, maybe 4.
And we started like the early season 3. So you've missed most of 3, all of 4, and then the 5th and final season is this April.
Oh, dope.
You saw Strange New Worlds first season, but you have not watched the second season.
No, I haven't.
And then you watched... Did you watch all 3 Picard seasons? You didn't watch season... I told you not to watch season 2.
He forbade me, folks, under threat of death.
It's a Talos 4 death penalty at Star Trek Wars.
He told me to get into the excruciation booth. So Picard season 1 and 2, I've seen 2 episodes of season 2, and I was like, I have no interest in this at all, which is, you could say that's not fair, but here's my problem with Picard, and I was excited when it came out, and Patrick Stewart's like, the world needs Picard now more than ever. I'm like, you know what? I'd agree with that. I think we need some wisdom from Picard. Mm-hmm. So here's what I was like. Here's what I wanted. I genuinely wanted a show where Picard is on his vineyard, and sometimes people from the past come up and they talk about the ramifications of the past 20 years and of what's to come and what's happening in their lives. That's what I wanted from this show. I wanted a political, personal show. And what we got was Vash, you're a data too. And it's I didn't really care. Like all the elements that I really liked, mainly him on his vineyard with his Romulan pals. Like that stuff that I really liked. I hate what they did with the androids.
Yeah.
That's something that's so unthinkable and in Star Trek, and it's I'd be genuinely fine with it if it was like a negative thing that the Federation did. Like there's a ban on, I think they call them, do they call them synths? Or
Yeah, there's an overreaction.
like number one, call them androids. Like that's what they're called in Star Trek. That's like a more modern anachronism kind of thing, but whatever. There's a synth ban because they went crazy. Why are they using Data's as free labor? Like Data from TNG would have hated that. Like as much as Data is capable of hating anything, he would hate the idea of essentially clones of him being used to just dig rocks.
When there's literally an episode about the rights of an android in one of the greatest episodes of Star Trek ever.
Like I guess the measure of the man is how fast he can dig. And that's like, and again, if it was like Picard if it wasn't about like an android band, but the Federation's like, well, they can sure dig ore fast, and then Picard maybe resigned over that
Right.
they're using his like copies of his friend.
Acknowledge that the measure of the man happened and that this is wrong.
But that's not what happened, and the show's like, it's kind of like a mystery action kind of thing. It reminds me a lot of like the J.J. Abrams movies. Like this isn't like the worst thing I've ever seen, but this is not really what I'm looking for in Star Trek. Like it's action packed and it's super violent and but it doesn't really have anything to say. And that's kind of my big problem with most modern Star Trek is that it's either like, hey, remember this thing? Which works to varying degrees. Like I think Strange New Worlds and even like some stuff in Discovery works really well with that, like the Telosians, spoilers, I guess, showing up in Discovery. I think it was that whole episode was
I
fantastic.
think it's one of our highest rated modern Trek episodes.
Yeah, no, I love that.
If memory serves.
Yeah, I would rate it high now, so I probably gave it a good score back then. But that being said, I know a lot of people who are grifters and don't actually care about Star Trek are complaining, and this is not a new thing, that the new Star Trek shows, starting with Discovery, are woke because they have diverse casting, which, yeah, I hated when Gene Roddenberry ruined Star Trek in the 60s. But what's new? But my problem with these shows is, and I like, hard, like science fiction stories. Obviously, we like Star Trek. Like Cause and Effect doesn't have anything to say about like apartheid or fascism or anything. It's just like a fun, really interesting, engaging episode that keeps you on the edge of your seat and you're constantly guessing, trying to figure out the mystery with the characters. It's not like a super political episode, but you have like Discovery, which, and you've seen way more of it than I have, doesn't really have a lot to say about anything in particular.
No, I think that's the craziest thing. I would say the modern era of Trek is the least political era Trek has ever been.
The most political I've seen from it is first episode of Strange New Worlds, which barely even says anything specific about the current climate, the political climate in America. It has some like shots of the January 6th kerfuffle, the kerfuffle, if you will. And stuff like that, and Pike mentions World War III as a canonical event that happened in Star Trek, and just mentions like, hey, you guys are like going to destroy yourselves if you act like this, which is like a message to us, the audience, ostensibly. But if you're like, I don't like modern Trek, it's too preachy. Anyway, I'm gonna go back and watch some TNG, and I'm gonna watch The Drumhead, like, which is about. Sorry, not to be political, but like I've had people like heard people say like that episode's like this predicts cancel culture. I'm like, it's talking about McCarthyism. It's talking about like anti-communist witch hunts and how that rhetoric is self-destructive, and it will turn on its own elements when it suits itself. It is a never-ending battle. Worf says in the episode, the Federation has enemies and we must seek them out. But as you quote unquote deal with those enemies, you're just going to keep finding more and more people who are problematic in some way to cancel.
So that's what McCarthyism means. I thought those were fans of Dennis McCarthy, the composer of Star Trek.
Who, famously was searching out for communists.
Yeah.
With his little black book.
No wonder. All my coworkers have been giving me weird looks.
I love McCarthy. What a great guy. He should have been president. But anyway, yeah, so that's kind of my problem with a lot of these newer Trek shows. They just don't have really anything to say. And they have some stuff that I think is good inclusions. Like they have more queer characters, which is cool.
It's not political.
No, it's not. I want to state that the having queer people or diverse casting in a Star Trek show is not political. That is the norm. My problem is, and I know this is because I'm, a hippie screwball. Star Trek has always kind of leaned into, Star Trek has a weird relationship with gender. Like with race, it's like mostly pretty good, but there's a lot of like everyone is a strictly monogamous heterosexual for like most of Star Trek, and now everyone's a strictly monogamous. You can your gender and sexuality can be whatever, but like, why aren't there any polycules in the new Star Trek shows?
And that seems right up Roddenberry's alley, right?
Yes, that's exactly something that Gene Troy needs to have 3 boobs. Roddenberry would be all about. And so that's just more like my own personal thing. There, I think it's kind of unrealistic in this future where like society's progressed beyond like our own like very restrictive norms and values. Like everyone's gonna be in a polycule in space. But anyway, I don't want to get into that too much. But I don't know. Like I don't hate new Trek at all. Like I've seen 2 seasons of Lower Decks.
Yes, I think you did. And then you saw the DS9 episode of season 3.
Yes.
And personally, I love Lower Decks a lot. I think season 3 was a bit of a letdown, but season 4, which came out in 2023, great.
Yeah, and I genuinely like it a lot. I think the first episode is probably the only one that I was like, I saw the first episode, I'm like, this is I don't know if this is for me. It's a little too referential and not in like a funny or clever way. It's just like, Imzadi, Boothby, hey, remember that?
Yeah, I think it's definitely worth. I think when you watch season 4 of Lower Decks, it's so much better and it's great. And there's some huge revelations and character growth in it. It's a great season of Trek. Also, you need to watch the second season of Strange New Worlds because I can't keep spoilers away from you much longer. But suffice to say, there's some great stuff in season 2 of Strange New Worlds,
which I will get around to sometime.
Sure, of course.
But as for like, I don't know, there's a lot of rumors now that they're like, actually, they're doing another show and or movie with Picard. I'm like, just stop.
Yeah.
Like we had our chance with Picard and it is insane.
Well, you didn't get to season 3 of Picard, but I mean, you didn't get to talking about it here.
Oh, sorry. I was like, what do you mean? I watched it. Are you gaslighting me? Yeah, no. So season 3 of Picard, I was stupefied at how good it was. And there's some stuff I'm like, we need a DS9 character here, because this is like essentially a DS9 sequel story, which was huge. I was like, we got to get a Bashir or a Kira, somebody.
Worf does not count.
Yes, because was introduced in TNG. Yeah. I do consider Miles more of a DS9 character though, but that's just because he's an actual main character.
Yeah,
in DS9, and Worf was a mainline cast member in TNG. Isn't Michael Dorn, like, hasn't he been in more Star Trek episodes than literally anybody else?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I thought. Second only to Jeffrey Combs, who played. There should be a new Star Trek show, and he just plays every single character. That being said, I don't know, like, I don't want another. Picard has to go save the galaxy.
Oh, I think it was a great they finally got a great send-off.
For TNG.
Yep. I mean, they got a great send-off to begin with all good things.
Yes.
But then got a terrible send-off
with
Nemesis. But then got a great send-off with season 3 Picard. Just let it go.
Yeah, no, and I feel like it's such a missed opportunity the first 2 seasons. And I know that not everybody would want this, but it's like I just wish that it was really about Picard and his relationships, because that's what's interesting to me. Is how Picard doesn't keep in contact with anybody. He's like basically solitary from all these people. He's alone essentially. I feel that they kind of lack humanity, I want to say. And I also just don't feel like Star Trek. I don't mean to be that guy, but especially the guy who stayed in the 21st century because they smoke cigarettes. What's his name?
Oh, yes.
With a nice beard.
Yeah.
That handsome guy who got detained by ICE. Like his first day in the 21st century. Rios, thank you. He stayed behind in the past knowing that World War III would happen. Did he get vaporized by a nuke?
I think he was beaten to death in a bar.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my God. What an auspicious end for such a character. I don't know. Sorry, I don't mean to turn this into a I hate New Trek thing. But I definitely, as I've gotten older, appreciate old Trek a lot more. And I want New Trek to be good. In the same vein, it's like someone's like, oh, there's a new Lord of the Rings project out. And I'll say, okay, I hope it's good. But I do find myself often quite disappointed.
But you loved season 3 of Picard.
Yes.
And I would love to see a Star Trek Legacy show carrying on with Captain Seven on the new Enterprise. I think that would be great.
Sure.
I just don't think... I think we got a great swan song for the next gen crew.
Yes, and my fear for such a show is that it's just going to, like, these seasonal arcs are really great if done right. I think Strange New Worlds, DS9, and even like Lower Decks to a very certain extent do well with, like, you have episodes that are self-contained but part of a greater narrative. There are status quo changes. These characters change. They reference things that have happened in the past, which makes it feel more realistic and gives you a sense of time. But there's, I think, a problem that can arise with kind of over serialization, and it's kind of a problem I have with like The Walking Dead, which just ended. I learned like pretty recently after season 50 or whatever.
I mean, sort of.
They have like 5 spin-off shows if you're not aware.
You know Minecraft, when those big old slime creatures, when you kill one, 10 little slime creatures jump out?
That's The Walking Dead.
That's The Walking Dead.
Like, sorry, not to do this to you guys, but who's watching this show at this point? Because everybody hates it. Walking Dead fans have hated Walking Dead since what, like season 6?
That's about when I bowed out, I think.
Yeah, same. Because I recently saw some of season 7. I'm like, this is rough. Like, this is starting with, like, I won't say like season 5-ish, they started like doing these stories where like these episodes where an episode will end on a huge cliffhanger. Oh, is this character gonna die? And then the next episode, like the next 3 episodes, won't even have that shown or addressed until like the season finale or whatever. And it's drip feeding you this content, as it were, and it's infuriating to watch. But it's not that bad with these new Trek shows, but especially with like Discovery, like every single season is like a massive like arc that leads to something. So a lot of the episodes just kind of feel like filler. Is how they feel. I don't know. I'm sorry if I'm being overly negative.
No, and I'm actually pretty okay with that direction on Discovery when there's other shows, because that makes Discovery kind of special and unique. Like it's the big storyline 10 episode series, and then you have like Strange New Worlds doing the Planet of the Week stuff. I think when you have both of those, it works a lot better. But yeah, I'm also pretty certain we're probably not going to see another new episode of Star Trek again after the ones that have already been greenlighted. So I think we're going to get a Strange New World season 3. We're going to get a Lower Deck season 5. Apparently, there's a Section 31 movie with Michelle Yeoh.
Okay. Oh God, wasn't that a thing in Star Trek Discovery Deep Space One's season 1 where there's like Section 31 have black comm badges? So you could tell who they are, which is something Section 31 would definitely do. Also, it's a weird thing that's like common knowledge that just, and it's not like the Discovery isn't important as a vessel, but just like this ship specifically know what that is, even though that's like a myth in the Federation that they cultivate themselves. Section 31.
Yeah.
That
I think
not a
that's
real organization.
Not just a fault of Discovery. I think that's a fault of
post DS9 Star Trek.
Using Section 31 because it's cool.
Which misses the point of Section 31 entirely. Which is not that it's cool, it's that they are a dangerous, scary element of the Federation.
Connor, we are quickly relegating back to season 1 of us where we're just saying DS9 is better than everything else. So we should probably...
Oh, no. See how easy it is?
Just fall right back.
This is all planned, folks.
I thought we grew.
Did you know that Detrell, that actually... Never mind. I'm not going to repeat that. The controversial quote from 11-year-old me, but anyway, going forward.
Oh, yeah. Well, I was going to do some other stuff, too.
Oh, sorry.
We kind of jumped on. I was going to touch on our top 5 and bottom 5 episodes.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
That we, that's why you're here, Connor. Just looking back before we jump forward again to the classic Trek and Star Trek Wars. I was going to take a look at those 7 seasons and see who had the top 5 episodes of each season and bottom 5 episodes of each season. In season 1, if you'll recall, and this is actually different because we went back and Jordan and the council went back and retroactively reviewed season 1 and a half to give it more than 2 scores so we can get a better average score. So that being said, now the best season 1 is TOS.
Yes.
And it had an average of 6.76.
As it should.
The worst show of that series, and this is also the worst overall season score of any series. And Connor, you're not going to believe this. It's Next Gen.
Wow,
with
really?
a 4.73. Next Gen has the worst season of any Star Trek series, season 1.
You're telling me the season with Encounter at Farpoint and oh my god, what's the oh no,
I bet it'll come
Code
up.
of Honor.
Yeah,
Code of Honor, baby.
So top 5 episodes of season 1 from all 5 classic Trek shows. Number 5, it looks like out of the 5, we got 3 original series and 2 DS9s.
Okay.
Number 5 was the DS9 finale, In the Hands of the Prophets, with an 8.28. And then number 4, Balance of Terror.
Oh, good stuff.
The original series. Connor, you gave that a 7. With an 8.53.
Number Balance of Terror is 7?
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite episodes now. That's insane.
Number 3, Arena.
Ooh, good one. Good
With
one.
an 8.75. Number 2, The City on the Edge of Forever. Classic, 8.91. Connor gave that 8. And
oh God, really?
the number 1 episode of season 1 is Duet which is just tens across the boards. And then Star Trek Wars Council gave it 8.77. So a 9.75. Duet is the best season 1 episode of Star Trek.
Okay.
The bottom 5 season 1 episodes of Star Trek. And you have we'll go from 5th worst to the worst.
Okay.
Number 5, Move Along Home.
Alamarang.
With a 3.25.
Yeah.
Number 4, When the Bow Breaks.
Which one's that?
That's Next Gen. I think, is that when that old guy makeup that
Yes.
is that the Admiral that gets younger, whatever? That was a 3.22.
Jesus.
Number 3, the original series has one with the alternative factor.
Oh, remind me.
That's where that guy is fighting himself across the dimensions.
Oh, yes.
Lazarus. Yeah. 3.17.
I think that's a few episodes before or after Charlie X.
Way after. I think it's towards the end of the season.
Okay.
Acquisition Enterprise, the Ferengi episode.
Oof.
2.97. And the worst season 1 episode of all Trek, Code of Honor.
Oh, yeah. No, that's a woman is
With a 1.58.
unwatchable.
All right. Top 5 season 2 episodes. At number 5, Mirror Mirror, the original series. Number 4, Journey to Babel, the original series.
Nice.
Number 3, The Trouble with Tribbles, the original series. Number 2, Amok Time, the original series. Number 1, The Measure of a Man.
Dang.
And Connor, what series do you think won best overall score of season 2?
I'm going to say probably TOS.
You're wrong. It's Deep Space Nine.
Oh.
With no top 5 episodes.
Wow.
At a 6.9. TOS came in second with 6.23.
That's great. And is that because of us?
Oh, I have to do some research on that. Probably.
Yeah, because like I my opinions on TOS are a lot different than when I was a kid. I was like, oh, this is kind of like campy. But I love TOS unabashedly.
Yeah.
Like Balance of Terror is like a 9 for me. There's I don't know. There's nothing like holding it back from being a 10. It's just I just adore that episode so much.
Yeah. It definitely, my gut tells me season 2 should probably go to TOS.
Yeah.
And then looking at the numbers where the top 5 episodes, 4 of them are TOS. Seems like something happened there.
Yeah, some fudging of the numbers.
Yeah, lowest rated season of season 2 goes to Voyager with a 5.03. And season 2 is the overall lowest scored season of the 7-year run.
That's crazy.
Yeah. I think it's a 5.76. Season 1 total average was 5.77, pushed only up there because of the incredible first season of TOS. Did I say bottom 5?
Yeah.
No. Oh, I didn't. Bottom 5 of season 2. You have Tuvix,
Okay.
Cat Spa.
Tuvix isn't a bad episode, Connor.
You
Connor
gave-
from Little Me.
You gave it a 1.
Yeah, I know. I was insane.
I gave it a 2.
We hate it. Is it because of the ending? Because
I think
Janeway
so.
murders a sentient being?
Yeah. It's so old. Cat Spa, Precious Cargo,
Oh my
Enterprise
God.
with the
The princess.
Yep. Oh yeah, that's terrible. Final 2 are classic bad ones. Old timers. Shades of Grey and Threshold.
Oh my God. The clip show and Tom Paris and Janeway become salamanders and make love in the dirt. Look it up, folks.
All right, season 3, top 5. At number 5, Similitude. Enterprise makes it in to top 5. Improbable Cause at number 4, DS9. Best of Both Worlds Part 1, number 3 on that list. Number 2, Yesterday's Enterprise.
So I think I gave that a 9. It's a 10 out of 10.
Best of Both Worlds?
No, Yesterday's Enterprise.
You gave that a 9. You gave Best of Both Worlds an 8. And number 1 for the season 3, The Dias Cast, Deep Space Nine,
Okay.
which we all gave 10s. Bottom 5, Voyager, Favorite Son,
Which one?
Harry Kim.
Oh.
Number 4, Voyager, False Prophets.
The Ferengi.
Yep. Number 3, Enterprise, Regime.
Oh, remind me. Regime.
Yeah.
Okay.
And number 2, Enterprise, Extinction.
Ooh, remind me.
I think that's what is that with like that civilization with like a person burning to death on fire in the opening?
Yes, they're monkeys.
Yeah.
And then they turn you into one of them. Yeah.
And the worst season
Good
3
times.
episode of all of Trek, the original series, and the children shall lead.
Oh, God above. Oh, it's so bad. Amazing stuff. We're in the hands of an adolescent. Isn't that what that line comes
Yes,
from? Okay.
I think so. DS9 won season 3 with an average score of 7.8. Voyager was last with a 4.9. Season 4 top 5. Reunion number 5. TNG.
Remind me.
Kalar, Alexander, Worf kills Duras.
Good stuff.
Number 4. Year of Hell Part 1. Voyager on
Great
the top
episode.
5 list. Yes. Number 3. Family. Next Gen.
Oh, God. I like that more than the best of both worlds.
Yes. You gave it a 9. Number 2. The Visitor.
Oh, God.
DS9.
I haven't watched that episode in years. I
Oh,
can.
And number 1, The Way of the Warrior. So back to back, how season 4 started. That one I can't argue too much for or against. Now, season 4 was when we changed the original series out for the animated series.
Yes.
That's why you'll find 3 of the top 5 animated series episodes. Number 5, Albatross. Please don't ask me.
No, oh my God. The only one I really remember, like I remember the animated series in bits and pieces, but I know the Salem witch trial episode with the actual devil.
Oh yeah, we may get to that also.
Excellent.
Number 4, These Are the Voyages, the Enterprise finale.
Oh God. Yeah.
Number 3rd to last, Bem.
Mr. Bombastic himself.
Mr. Bombastic himself. Number 3, the original series, or the animated series, The Magics of Megas 2.
That's it.
That's the devil one.
That's it, baby.
And the number 1 worst episode of season 4, Voyager's Nemesis.
Oh, remind me.
It's really speak funny. Like Chakotay's on a planet with warriors, and they have different speak for things.
they speak funny.
Yeah, they speak funny.
I'll take it.
Winner of season 4, DS9, with a 7.76. That is the highest rated season of all of Star Trek.
That's
DS9,
kind of well deserved.
Season 4. I would have guessed it'd have been DS9, but I would have thought maybe 5 or 6. 4 is kind of shocking. It's the animated series with the worst season at 5.29 that year. Season 5, top 5, DS9's In Purgatory Shadow.
Ooh, good stuff.
Number 4, Children of Time, DS9.
Oh yes, that's the one where they're like on that colony of their future descendants. Yeah.
Surprising it made it that high, but I love that episode.
Me too.
Number 3, The Inner Light.
Oh
Next
God.
Gen. Yeah.
Another non-political episode that's not about anything, by the way. It's not about like environmentalism or climate change or anything like that.
Seize the Time, Arabelle. Number 2, A Call to Arms, DS9, 5th finale. And number 1, Trials and Tribulations.
Classic episode.
Yes. Bottom 5. Season 5 is great because that's when we drop down to 3 shows. It's just DS9, Next Gen, and Voyager.
Oh, that was glorious, wasn't it?
Yes. Bottom 5, we have Next Gen's Cost of Living, the mud bath with Alexander and Loaxana.
The higher the Fuhrer. Wait,
right.
sorry, the fewer.
Oh, no.
I apologize, everybody. That was not intentional.
Number 4, Voyager 1159.
Which one's that?
I don't know, but number 3 is Voyager's Once Upon a Time, and that's with Trevis.
Trevis and Butthead. What was the other kid? Flotter. Trevis and Flotter.
Yeah. Bottom 2 spots belong to DS9 and Voyager. Second to last, Let He Who Is Without Sin.
Well, he's let first. Gas first down.
Oh, that's a terrible episode.
Let He Who Is Without Sin. Is that That's not the Rumpelstiltskin episode.
No,
That's if wishes were horses. Which one is this?
Risa, where they go to Risa and Worf.
Worf becomes an eco-terrorist because he doesn't like vacationing. Which is so in character for
Oh my
Worf.
god. And of course, the number one worst episode of season 5,
Let me back in the ring.
The Fight. Yeah. Season 5, the winner is DS9 with a 7.66, and Voyager loses with a 6.75. But you notice 6.75 for the worst season,
Ain't bad.
and that makes that the overall best season of Star Trek. It's only 3 shows, but it was a 7.08 average.
Pretty good.
Pretty good. Season 6, top 5, Rocks and Shoals, Connor. Number
Ooh,
5.
the OG.
Number 4, Chain of Command, Part 2, Next Gen. Therefore, Lights.
There are more lights.
And it's in 4th place. Number 3, Tapestry, Next Gen.
Which is probably nowadays one of my most watched episodes of TNG. When I was younger, I used to rewatch Encounter at Farpoint a lot. I don't know why. I didn't like Encounter at Farpoint, and I still don't.
It's still weird to me.
But Tapestry is my new Encounter at Farpoint.
That's a much better choice.
Definitely equivalent in terms of how good they are,
Yes.
but it is something that I adore that episode.
Yeah, I love all 5 of these top 5s. Number 2, Far Beyond the Stars.
Oh God, yeah.
And that's only number 2 because number 1, In the Pale Moonlight.
Oh God, that's
a great season to track.
watch all these.
Yeah. Season 6, DS91 with a 7.34. Voyager Lost with a 6.07. So it's still, they're fine. Bottom 5 of season 6, Next Gen's Aquiel. That's a Geordie and a missing lady and a dog that's a shapeshifter.
Oh yeah.
Number 4, DS9's Resurrection, the classic Bareil Mirror Universe episode.
No, I think it's insane. The Mirror Universe storyline in was it season 1? They tackle that again?
Mhm.
Season 2, maybe.
Well, they've done one every season.
Oh right. Okay, so it was definitely season 1, and it's like this is so inventive and clever. And then the second one's like, okay, this is fun, this is good. And then the longer those Mirror Universe episodes go on, the worse they become. And you're like, oh, you're being hyperbolic. No.
It starts in season 2. You're right. There's none in season 1.
Mm-hmm. That's what I'm saying.
And then third to last, Man of the People, Next Gen. You remember that one?
Yeah, that's where the guy who's an ambassador like feeds off of his
Women?
yeah, like he's like a not to be blunt. Does he assault Troy?
I don't.
Or is it just to her mind?
I think that's where she like grows older. I don't know if he's like
Yeah.
taking her like life force or something.
Okay, because I'm forgetting which episode is a
hard to
woman
remember.
sexually assaulted on Next Gen.
Yeah.
But he does like feed off of her, as it were,
Yes.
to like be good at negotiating.
Yeah.
Am I remembering that correctly?
That's correct.
It's not good.
But it's not the worst.
No.
Second to worst, Voyager's Spirit Folk. That's with like
the ghosts.
That's with that holosuite program with the people like the hillbillies and
Oh my God. Yes, because that's the like it's like an Irish town, right?
yes,
Oh, it's so. And isn't Janeway a nanny?
that might be that one.
Like, why? If you could do anything in your free time on the holodeck, why would you Why would you do that?
Yeah, it's bad.
Teach fictional children.
But Connor, it's not the worst. There's only one episode out of the 78 season 6 episodes we watched that got a 1 from every host.
Oh, tell me.
Profit and Lace.
It's an episode with such like potential to be interesting, but it's also just like wildly like it's like, oh, it didn't age well. It didn't age well at the time.
Yeah.
Like, it's not funny.
No.
It's transphobic. And even at the end, Quark doesn't learn a lesson. The whole, like, Quark cross-dresses in the episode and pretends to be a woman to, like, further women's rights in Ferengi
I think he gets
society.
actually physically altered into a woman.
Yes. And there's like a lot of like transphobic comments about it.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, at the very end of the episode, he's still like a violent misogynist who didn't learn anything. So like, what was the point of the episode?
It's hilarious.
It's like this is like if Rob Schneider was like, guys, I have a great idea for an episode. It's just so funny. Let me do a Chinese Ferengi. This will be hilarious.
Final season, Connor, season 7. Number 5 best, Lower Decks, Next Gen. 4th best, The Siege of AR 558.
Oh,
Deep
God,
Space
yeah.
Nine. 3rd, number 3, Parallels, Next Generation.
Which ones?
That's Worf, where he's going through all the different parallel dimensions back and forth.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah, if you don't remember that, it's worth revisiting. It's a great,
I haven't seen
especially
it
a
forever.
great season 7 episode. Number 2, Tacking into the Wind, Deep Space Nine, part of their final chapter. That might be the one where we lose the Defiant. Number 1, episode of season 7, the series finale of Next Gen, All Good Things.
As it should be.
Yeah, that is just incredible. Season 7, of course, bit of a letdown for a lot of the shows, but DS9 won with a 7.27. And it should, like, the final season of DS9 is the best. That 10-part finale is pretty great and still holds up. And Voyager lasts with a 6.36. Well, anyway, that's that.
Enough number crunching.
Yeah, and if you guys are interested at all in the classic era of Star Trek Wars and Star Trek, you can find those 177 episodes we did in our first 7 seasons. Each season corresponds with the season of Trek we were reviewing. So season 1, Connor and I review all the first season episodes. Season 7 reviewed the final year of the 3 Trek series still remaining. If you're looking for a particular Trek episode on the podcast, that's also how you find them. If you want to hear our review of DS9's The Visitor, you can find that in our season 4, episode 2. So you can find it just that way, seasons by seasons. All right, that's it for Classic. It's time to go to Here.
It's been a long time. But I don't remember the rest of the words to the song. Sorry, Enterprise fans.
This is the part, Connor, where I was going to ask if you kept up with your studies, but we kind of touched that. You read a magazine, and I haven't.
I read an awful Time magazine about Star Trek that I thought was woeful. Like, sorry, not to be a pedant, but like they will say things like Kirk and Spock actually fought each other in season 2. I'm like, yeah, in a mock time. The first episode, like they'll say like Spock's dad. I'm like, oh, Sarek? Like that? Like this is important information.
So 2023, Connor, I ended up doing, I released a poll out for everybody. We had 3 Trek seasons in 2023, 3 seasons of 10 episodes. So we got 30 new episodes of Star Trek in 2023.
Dang.
And I would say 3 great seasons of Star Trek. I started with Picard, final season, went into Strange New World season 2, and then ended with Lower Decks season 4. All great. So I put up a poll for the best episodes of 2023. With all 30 of those up there, had people rank and or pick out their favorite episodes of 2023. Out of the 30 episodes, 23 finished with 3% of the vote or less. The remaining 7 episodes all finished with 6% or higher in the voting. So we'll mention those. In 5th place with 6% is No Win Scenario, Picard Season 3, Episode 4.
Remind me.
That is the one where they think they're all trapped. Picard has doomed them all. They're all preparing for death in the nebula.
You just killed us, Sean-Luc.
Yep.
It was incredible. Love that episode.
Yep. Wonderful episode. 6% of the vote there. We got a 3-way tie for 4th with 7%. You've seen one of these, Connor. We have Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow. Strange New Worlds, Season 2, Episode 3. Wonderful episode. Volks. Picard. That is the penultimate episode of Picard, where they take care of the changelings and get the Enterprise D.
Oh, God. Good stuff.
And Old Friends, New Planets, the season finale of Lower Decks, which was an amazing episode. 3rd place with 9%, Subspace Rhapsody, Strange New Worlds.
Is that a musical episode?
Season 2, Episode 9. I don't want to spoil anything.
It's like do you know people rag on the musical episode of Buffy?
That's ridiculous.
It's insane to me.
That is legitimately not just a great music. It's maybe the best episode of that show.
Yeah, my favorite episode of the show, not to watch, but just like I think it's the might be my one of
It's
my most
incredible.
watched is The Body.
Oh, well, yeah, The Body. Yeah,
which is like an awful episode and how it makes you feel, but it's
so
incredible.
well done. But yeah, I think the only thing to blame the Buffy musical for is all the subpar musicals that came after that. But
yes,
that is an incredible episode of television. And I don't know why we're bringing that up, but Subspace Rhapsody, also an incredible episode of 2023, Connor. I think you'll love it. And then we have a two-way tie for first place, both with 15% of the votes. One of them is Those Old Scientists, Strange New Worlds, Season 2, Episode 7. Those Old Scientists.
Is that like a Bride of Chaotica kind of thing?
It's a great episode, Connor. Once again, man, you got to watch Strange New Worlds so we can
Okay.
talk about it, but it's wonderful. And, of course, The Last Generation, the Picard series finale. Wonderful.
I loved it.
No reason to make anything more.
Oh, please don't. It's like making another Toy Story movie.
Just stop.
It's like you're playing Russian roulette every time you make
know.
one of these things.
I was one of the few that hoped they burned in that furnace halfway through.
Toy Story 3?
Yeah.
So at last, an end to it all.
It's like, this is great. It's a 30-minute movie. I'm sad. All right. So 2024, we're going back to new episodes every other week, Connor.
Oh, dang.
Yeah, you didn't even know that.
No, I
but for
didn't.
the most part, we're foregoing the episode review format, or at the very least, the multiple episode review format that killed our spirits.
What, the 5 hour grind to just watch all the episodes and then do a 2.5 hour podcast?
And although we're doing bi-weekly episodes, Connor, you and I will be part of a monthly special podcast. So we'll be doing ours monthly, but we'll have things every other week in between those. Connor, you and I will be doing our first special together will be the Retraction Factor Apology Tour that you talked about. I will be looking back at some of the worst Trek takes, scores, and thoughts throughout the years that maybe don't hold up as well. I feel like
I have a list.
Yeah. If you're part of the council culture, you'll be able to weigh in as well. A week before that episode comes out, we'll post that topic so you guys at home can answer and potentially get your comments read on air. Other special season 10 episodes we'll be doing will include a multi-episode run of Temporal Investigations with Jordan. Since he missed the first season and a half of the podcast, Jordan never got a chance to talk about some of Star Trek's greatest episodes. Well, apparently that's all changed. He won himself an orb or some shit of time and will be going back in time to try and insert himself into those past Star Trek Wars episodes get his thoughts in. I'll be on his tail. Hopefully I can stop him before he causes Star Trek Wars to completely Kelvin timeline itself. Also coming out monthly between our monthly specials is a new show hosted by myself and Chelsea, where we'll be watching and discussing a randomly selected episode of Star Trek, picked by your votes over on the council, tentatively titled Next in Q, but the Q is capitalized with a dash because it's a Trek pun, the show.
Is that the full title?
Yeah, I think so. In fact, tonight we're going to spin that great Dabo wheel to see which 3 episodes you guys at home will be choosing for us to watch next. And these bi-weekly specials will air all the way up to the final season of Discovery, which will start in April. And at that point, the specials will pause as Jordan and Joselyn once again jump into reviewing that final 10 episode run. And then once Disco concludes, the specials will jump right back for the remainder of the year. So I guess we just got to spin that wheel, Connor, to see what 3 episodes the council will be asking me and Chelsea to cover in 2 weeks. Now, this is 904 episodes. It's modern and classic. It's everything. So we're going to spin the wheel and see which 3 it picks for us. Let's spin that wheel. All right, and that is episode 833. This is in like air order.
Okay.
833. Let's scroll down. So the first episode you guys can vote for Star Trek Picard, Season 2 premiere, The Stargazer.
Oh. Have fun.
Now remember, you guys, we're only going to watch the one that you guys vote at home for. So we're
okay, so there's more chances to not watch
Yes.
Season 2 of Picard.
Let's go ahead and spin again. Okay, that is episode 522. What does that get us?
Oh, yes.
Star Trek Voyagers. Demon.
Do you remember which one that is?
I remember really, really liking that episode. That might be a Voyager 10 for me, and I can't tell you why. I hope it is, but I don't know. All right, Picard Season 2 and a Voyager.
Okay.
Come on, Wheel.
Give us Deep Space Nine. We haven't changed in the last 10 years. This is all a facade. Buy our merchandise, you fools.
653rd episode. 653rd. Ding, 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 ding. 653rd is Enterprise. 2 days and 2 nights.
Isn't that an Adam Sandler movie?
I'm just gonna reshuffle and we'll cut all this. All right, so yeah, that is your choices: Picard, Stargazer, Voyager, Demon, Enterprise. 2 days, 2 nights. They're all winners in my book.
An auspicious lineup.
So we'll put that poll up and have you guys vote on it, and we'll talk about whatever you vote for. And that'll do it from us for now.
All right.
But we will be back in 2 weeks to discuss one of those classic episodes. Now, if you want to be a part of the council culture and participate in these specials, head over to that page on Facebook. The polls will be up. We'll read your comments. We're back.
That's right. And in the immortal words of Hillary Clinton, we want you to Pokemon go to the polls.
Star Trek Wars is available on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, and anywhere else fine podcasts are heard. We now have over 360 episodes stretching across our 10 seasons. As I mentioned before, seasons 1 through 7 is our coverage of the classic 5 series of Star Trek. Season 8 is our Star Trek films. Season 9 holds all of our modern Trek coverage, including our reviews of the final season of Picard and the upcoming final season of Discovery. Season 10, well, that's where you are right now. All our 2024 non-disco episodes will be right here in Season 10. And so shall you be, Connor.
Oh!
And me, right here, waiting for you in the least threatening way possible.
He's just going to stay there for weeks upon weeks, staring at the door, waiting for me to come.
You can still find us on Twitter at the Star Trek Wars. Connor, always a pleasure. Where can they find you?
You can find me on future episodes of this podcast. My long hiatus has come to an end, so you could find me here.
Absolutely. I just want to say that much like you were the reason this podcast started 10 years ago, you're also the reason it's continuing this year, because this was your idea. I wasn't planning on doing anything for Star Trek Wars 2024.
Yeah, it's been on my mind a lot. Honestly, maybe not like doing the old format, because full disclosure, I'm a gross adult now, and I rent an apartment and have bills to pay, so I work most of my time. But so I don't think that old schedule we had is very viable for my current lifestyle of going to sleep and working. But that being said, it has been something that I've been thinking about a lot, and I definitely wanted to revisit a lot of old episodes and do a lot of apologizing for the insane takes we had early on in the show.
Yeah, we'll start with that special. We also have mini specials beyond that, just talking about Trek. We just want to talk about classic Trek, and we'll have some topics just that we'll get you guys involved in and just have fun talking Star Trek again.
Yeah.
Chelsea will be with me on the next episode when we do the episode that you guys deem we should. You can also find Chelsea She's making some amazing, incredible paintings. We'll post some on the council. You can find her at The Happy Hellhound on Instagram. Some wonderful stuff there. As for me, well, when I'm not talking Trek, you can find myself and Connor, of course, discussing all of the Bond films.
Which we're going to do.
At the Bonding Together podcast, available on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Connor, we're already halfway through it.
Oh, are we? Oh, boy. And we release them monthly, don't we? Every 8 months.
Every 8 months, yeah.
When we have the time.
That checks out. We'll get back on that for sure.
Yeah. And then once we're done with bonding together, like James Bond movies, we're going to review every Steven Seagal movie ever made until we get to about the third one and we kill ourselves.
Yeah, Connor, when you say that, I think that's why I keep postponing the bonding. I don't want it to end. I know what happens next.
I don't want the game to end.
Until next time, let's trek some Hulk. I really should have thought of an ender.
Trek up. Trek this.
Thanks for listening to Star Trek Wars.